Yeah, good to see everyone. Coming off the bye week gave us a chance to study ourselves really, really hard and find out what we've been doing well, what we got to do better. Behind the obvious. And I think it was a productive week for us to get refreshed. And now we've got a important stretch. Obviously, a lot of games left to play, but specifically this week and the next few weeks with divisional opponents. And we got a strong division, so it's going to be a great challenge for us, and we're looking forward to it. But I'll take any questions you have.
Kirk, in your time here, what sense have you gotten from what Vikings versus Packers means to the franchise and the fan base?
Yeah, it's a great rivalry. So much tradition on both sides, and it's a lot of fun anytime we play. So looking forward to another opportunity this Sunday.
Kirk, what kind of things have you been emphasizing since the Atlanta game and that you'll continue to do this week regarding some of the interception issues? I had asked Zimmer about it, and he talked about, issues with your feet and possibly predetermining routes and things along those lines.
Yeah, every interception is a little different. So you go back and look at each one and say, why was that the case on this one? And certainly the first one against Atlanta, I would say, I got too locked in on Justin and didn't need to force it. But, I wouldn't say many of the others were predetermining. And a lot of them, you shrug your shoulders too and you say, Hail Marys are unfortunate, tip passes are unfortunate. And so you have to kind of look at each one as its own entity. And some of them, there's not a lot you control, and some of them you can control entirely. And you just study each one very critically and take what you can from each of them as individual plays.
And along those lines, Dalvin Cook was saying he's 1,000% behind you. Have you had a lot of teammates just, saying, hang in there, don't worry about it, what have you, due to some of the turnover issues you've had? Yeah,
teammates have always been supportive, and I don't know that we're in a place where they feel the need to come console me. I think we're doing just fine, and we know what we're capable of. We know what we can do when we're at our best, and I think we've shown that with explosive plays and moving the football and getting a lot of guys involved and both running the ball and throwing the ball. So we know we can get back to that. What we have to do is do it consistently.
Kirk, on that note, when Rick Spielman said last week during his bye week availability with us that no one's lost faith in you, what does that do for you? And I guess just like your confidence that, yeah, the interceptions are up this year, but, this franchise still supports you.
Well, it's just, business as usual. You got to go back to work and you're just, as a professional, you want to get it corrected. You want to finish the year in a much different place. And so I look forward to, this stretch up ahead of trying to, play at such a level that, it's a much different story as we finish the season than how we started.
Hey, Kirk, how do you use the extra time during the bye week? And I guess what were you able to pick up when you look back at those extra, or those 6 weeks, what were you able to pick up and learn from with that extra time?
One of the differences among several is the coaches aren't cramming to game plan for your next opponent. So you have time to, visit with them, talk through things, get an understanding of, what we've done well, what are what's the film and the analytics and the data showing as far as, behind the scenes, why we're doing well when we are, what we're not doing well, and the why behind it. And having those conversations, I think, was really helpful, and it gives you the chance now as you go forward to course correct a little bit as an offense and really try to, hone in on what you're doing well and what's been good for us this year with our personnel.
Hey, Kirk, you signed your extension last March, obviously thinking that the Vikings were going to be competitive for years to come. How do you feel in the big picture about everything that's transpired? I mean, they didn't sign a ton of free agents in the offseason, and they made the trade last week, and some people think the team is rebuilding. How do you kind of assess everything that has happened since you signed on for additional years?
Well, I feel very good about being a Minnesota Viking. Love it here, and we also have a true focus this week on the Packers, and I think we talk about those things, or we spend time thinking about those things, in the off season, away from the season. But we have so much on our plate week in and week out with our opponent and the game plan and getting ready that you don't really want to allow yourself to be anywhere but focusing on the Packers.
Hey, Kirk, good to see you. Kind of wanted to turn your attention a little bit to the Michigan State-Michigan game this week. I guess from a quarterback standpoint, how does that define you in this game? And from what you saw with Coach Mel Tucker's debut, I guess, what are your senses on where the program's headed?
Yeah, I have a lot of confidence in Coach Tucker. I think he was a great hire. I like his staff a lot. And as with anything, it takes time. And obviously the Michigan game is a big game every year and so fun for so many people in that state and a great rivalry. And it's been fun to see how the history has unfolded over the last, really couple decades. It's been a great battle back and forth. So I expect, this weekend to be no different.
What was that first one like for you when you got your chance?
Well, people always talk about the ones I played in, but the ones I sat and watched on the sideline were just as intense. I remember as redshirting as a freshman in 2007 when we had a lead and they came back and won at the end, and I remember how much that hurt. And then I remember the next one going into Ann Arbor and winning there, which was such a big deal to win in Ann Arbor and to win convincingly. And then from there, was able to play the three remaining years I had eligibility, and it's great to win those three and be a part of a stretch where we were able to really, start to paint the state green, which was a goal of ours. Was to kind of cause people to really get behind the Spartans, and I think we did a great job of that.
Thanks. Good to see you, Ben.
Good to see you too, Chris.
Hey, Kirk, did you when you're Matt LaFleur being off to one of the best starts for a head coach in NFL history, when you were around him when he was a position coach, did you see any kind of head coaching traits or things that impressed you that you thought maybe this guy was going to go further than position coach?
Definitely. Matt's the real deal. Was a great coach for me in Washington. I'm so grateful to have been drafted to Washington largely because of the coaches I got to play with. Mike Shanahan, Kyle Shanahan, Matt LaFleur, Sean McVay. I mean, those were, right away as a rookie getting to meet those coaches. And, I've always had respect for Matt, and he's done a great job in his first year and a half there in Green Bay as a head coach.
And does this feel different to you now this year with all the injuries on defense, and now they've traded their leading pass rusher? Everybody talks complimentary football and everything, but is it shifted? I mean, the pressure for this, do you feel like the offense has to carry this team at this point?
Well, I think it's important for our offense to possess the football. I think it's important for us to sustain drives, which, turnovers prevent you from sustaining drives, not converting third downs, getting into third downs that are, more or less unconvertible because they're 3rd and 15 plus. You got to stay out of those situations. So, we take pride in that, and regardless of what else is going on around you, you really want to be that way as an offense, no matter what. Even if you have the greatest defense in the history of the league, you still want to take that same approach on offense. So I've always learned that the best way for me to play, the best way for our offense to succeed is to just focus on us, on how to best do our job, and control what you can control, and not spend energy or time thinking about much else.
Kirk, when you look back, you talked about interceptions, some of them being ones you can control, some of them being ones that you can't. When you look back at the ones that you can control, are there themes that you see there of things you need to change to kind of cut those down? Maybe not themes, just if there was a theme, it would just be, hey, maybe less aggressive, less trying to make the big play. I think one thing we've done really well as an offense is we've been really explosive. We've had a lot of big plays. The problem has been when we aren't having those explosive plays, we aren't getting the singles. We're hitting home runs, we're hitting triples, but we're not hitting as many singles. And in my background, I think I've been a guy who's hit a lot of singles, if you will. So maybe just trying to get back to hitting singles, even if it means we miss a home run, even if it means we don't get the big play, being consistent, staying ahead of the chains, staying out of 2nd and long, 3rd and long. I'd like to think that'll help our offense and potentially protect the football more. But it's always a balance, right? Because the minute you're not aggressive, the minute you're not taking the shot or forcing it in a good way, you're going to regret those too. So you just have to play through it and keep learning off each rep and continue to always find that balance, which is never perfect, but you always try to find it.
Along the lines of explosive plays, what do you think when you see that, you look at Justin Jefferson's rookie stats? I mean, he's on a pace now to have more catches and more yards even than Randy Moss did as a rookie in 1998.
Yeah, Justin's done a great job. We've been very impressed with his production, and I'm proud of him. I'm proud of the way he's stepped up to the plate, the way he's helped our offense, brought us a spark, and really handled a lot mentally too. We're throwing at him with plays and formations and adjustments. And Coach Janoko, our wide receivers coach, has done a great job too, bringing him along and staying on him and holding him accountable. And excited about him and what he can do, week in and week out this season, but also for his future.
Kirk, with younger players, there's always peaks and valleys of development. Mike Zimmer was talking about that. I wonder what you can pass along to some of the players around you who are developing that are going through some of those things, that it's not always just you get better every single game, right?
Yeah, you definitely want to take your career into your own hands and be very critical of yourself as a young player, as a veteran player, and say, how can I be better? And I'm not going to wait for someone to tell me, wait for someone to come up with a drill to help me. I'm going to go do that and really take ownership. And I think the players that can do that, they can be very self-aware and fix problems, before the coaches even have to. I think that really helps the player, get through mistakes, learn from them, not repeat them, such that they're able to take that next step as a player. You really have to take ownership of your own development.
Last one for Kirk.
Kirk, what did you think of Everson Griffin going to Detroit? What will it be like running from him next week?
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. I think he's such a great player. I wasn't looking forward to having to see him in a couple of weeks, but I guess if he was with the Cowboys, we were going to see him at some point anyways this year. But great player, great personality. Think so highly of him and his family, and it'll be good to see him, and we'll get there when we get there.